I'm looking at the progression, which I think is really important, especially in 3 courses. I think one of you did a better job with the concept and the dishes that fit into the concept, and that's chef.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Herrera. Thank you for joining our podcast for all things food and pop culture. Just a reminder to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content, and to like and subscribe on your podcast player of choice so you know when things are going to be dropping. Today, we are covering Top Chef Season 23, Episode 8, your favorite episode, mine, Restaurant Wars. It's Restaurant Wars time. This whole season has been chaotic, and it's been fun to watch. And joining me once again from Top Chef Season 22, Chef Corwin Hemming. Chef Corwin, how are you, sir?
What's up, Rich? Ready to get into this week's episode, man. This is a lot going on here. This is actually a fun episode, but you know what we need to talk about first. I think there's an elephant in the room that nobody wants to address. I'm gonna address it. You're gonna address it. The people are gonna hear it because we gotta talk about it, man. We gotta talk about it.
We got hot takes all around. An adventure-filled episode. We got a shocking return of an eliminated contestant. We got the season finale of LCK, which I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the last one already.
Mm-hmm.
And a return of who the participant was in LCK, which was no surprise to me, I think. But yeah, let's start with, let's back up a little bit. When we last left off on episode 7, the Restaurant Wars teams were formed. We had Jonathan, Brandon, and at the time, Jennifer and Oscar. And then the other team, we had Sherry, Anthony, Lawrence, and Duyen. We open up season 8, and Jennifer leaves. So Kristen comes in and says, Jennifer's leaving for her safety and for her health. And everybody's like, oh, we got 3. And we talked about that last week. Oh, it's going to be 3 on 4, but, we're going to dial in and everybody. And then she explains, okay, well, wait a second. Normally, we would have brought Justin back, but he decided to leave with Jennifer. And so now that goes to the last person that left, and Seeger is back. So that answers our question that we were asking a couple of weeks ago. Where was Seeger? Well, apparently they had him sequestered somewhere, and he comes in to replace Jennifer. So what was funny is this was actually spoiled online. There was an influencer that went to the Restaurant Wars taping and was part of the group there eating the food, and she was filming, and she posted it, and Seeger was in the background. And somebody sent that to me. I sent it to you, Chef. And what were your thoughts initially? The day before we were watching this episode, you see Seeger, a blurry Seeger in the background. What were you thinking?
Speechless, as I am right now. I was like, well, this is the elephant in the room that we were talking about, man. Something happened. They don't want to talk about it. Seeger was still there. He didn't want to participate in LCK. I don't know why. I don't know, man. I'm at a loss of words. I just tell us what happened. Tell us what happened. Because he goes on to cook a whole hog, gets eliminated, disappears, doesn't participate in his episode of LCK, and then there's just another episode goes by, nothing about it, don't talk about it, and then all of a sudden he just pops back up. And it's like, bro, like you gotta go through the run of the ladder. Like LCK is a part of it. Like I went through LCK, like, I got knocked out, I still participate. Imagine if I'd have been like, hey, I'm not doing it. That to me is like, it's a part of it. We saw Kristen come back and rally back from the ranks and win Top Chef. That's a part of it, man. It's a part of what this show is. Like, I don't know. I'm a little annoyed by it, to be honest. It's like, just tell us the truth then. Like, hey, he didn't want to do it. Why? Okay, cool. Give the fans something, but to just bring him back, it's like, all right, like, he got knocked out. Did he deserve to get knocked out? I think that's the question we need to answer. Was it like a rightful, you got knocked out, this was the fair choice, yes or no? I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know. It's okay, Rich. Some things are just better left unsaid, as they say.
I don't know. It's a mystery. I'm trying to figure out the timeline of it all, right? So when Jen left, or when she went to the ER, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they told Justin, and they said, Justin, now Jennifer is leaving, so you were eliminated. You can come back and take her place. And he decided not to. So 2 days after that is when he decided, okay, I want to come back, but he had to go through LCK. So I think we talked about this before. How long is it between when you're eliminated on the main competition and when you're filming LCK? Is it right
It
after?
depends.
Yeah.
It depends. Like, you know, as we saw for this episode, for example, the person who got eliminated was thrown straight back into it. That probably happened within a window of less than a day or a day at max. Uh, for my episodes specifically, I was the first because we had a two-part LCK. So we did the first part where like Bailey was a part of it. She went back in, and then I got knocked out. And then they had to build up some people to get eliminated to like put the tournament together for the second part. So that took the better part of a week for us. You know, it wasn't a fast thing for us. So we, you know, me and Kat were basically just sitting there, you know, in our hotel. And like, hey, you want to hang out today? This is me and her. You want to hang out? There's nobody else eliminated. We're sequestered away from everybody else. All right, cool. What do you want to do? Get something to eat? You want to ask them if they could take us for a coffee? I'm gonna go get in a hot tub. We just sit there and talk back. Damn, this sucks. Like I wish I was with everybody. You know. So it's really up to the production timeline, and they have their way of doing things. You know, they've got their things figured out, and then as like, you know, I think who got knocked out next? Henry got knocked out after us, and then Paolo was after that. Or no, Katiana was first, then it was Henry, then it was Paola, then it was Cesar. And so within that was probably like 2 weeks between everybody filming, and it was about 2 weeks for us. This was probably much faster. So I would say this is probably under a week's time between Seeger getting knocked out, Jen having her health issues, her partner getting granted back in, but then he chose to participate in LCK, and he got knocked out. And then from there, the Seeger situation comes back, and then we see this current episode. So that's probably about a week's worth of taping and timeline, to be honest.
So my question is this. So had Justin, in an alternate universe, let's say Justin said, okay, yeah, I want back in.
Mhm.
He wouldn't have gone through LCK. They would have just
No,
put him back in. So I'm
correct.
wondering if that was the case with Seeger, but he was eliminated first. He didn't go to LCK, and then basically 2 LCKs later, he's back in. So how much of this was planned beforehand for Seeger to come back, knowing that they were probably going to have to ask Jen to leave?
Mhm.
So, because if it were the other way around, like if Seeger got eliminated before Justin, Seeger wouldn't have had to go to LCK. He would have said, "Okay, I'm going to go back," and then he would have been back. So,
Mhm.
I don't know. Like you said, there's more questions that have arisen since then. Like, what
He got
did he?
lucky. He
Yeah.
got lucky. This is the first time we've seen somebody having to go out due to multiple illnesses in Top Chef. So he got lucky. All of them did. The fact that Justin could have gotten a free ride, you know, just pass go back in, and he chose not to. You know, that's the way you're supposed to do it. He's like, no, like I got knocked out. Like I'm gonna go for it. You know what I mean? And he got lucky. I think Seeger just got straight up got lucky. Just said, you know what, I'm cool. Like I got eliminated. Like this is it for me. Maybe they did have something tucked in their pocket. I don't think that they could have planned for this, because what if Justin was like, I'm not doing it either. You know, I'm just leaving right now. They would have just fallen apart. The whole thing would have fallen apart, and they would have been scrambling to piece it back together. But they made it work, man. It would have hurt else. It would have hurt Restaurant Wars had it been a 3-on-4.
Yeah.
It would have been a clear divide. We would have saw the team with lesser people struggling because it's busy. You saw, like we saw the episode, man. It was busy. So I think that Anthony wouldn't have been able to do the dual GM like we said. Like it would have been all bad. Like there would have been no all-time quarterback. They had to figure out something. They had to make a decision. Seeger was the clear option to go back in. Justin should have just said, yeah, I'll take it. He should have said, I'm selfishly going to take it, but he was more focused on Jen's health instead of, you know, worrying about Justin and being like, I'm here to win Top Chef. You know, he's the concern and safety of his partner was real for him. And he chose that, which is 100%. In those moments, you got to choose family or you got to choose work, man. And everybody's want to do it is a little bit different.
Yeah. So the silver lining, I guess, in all of this is Jennifer is going to come back in a future season, and she was doing
Mhm,
good with one arm. Like Du Yen
mhm.
said in her confessional, she was killing it with one arm. So whatever future season she's on, she's going to be my number one draft pick coming in. So I
Two
mean,
arms.
yeah, right, with two arms. She's going to be cooking with two arms that time. So everybody better watch out. But yeah, so a lot of mystery behind the return of Seager, and we're going to talk more about him as we go through the episode. But yeah, so who knows? Who knows what happens? Leave it in the comments below. Put your conspiracy theories in there, and it'll be a fun discussion in the group there. So let's get right to it. We go right into Restaurant Wars. Obviously, no quick fire challenge. We have a couple of heavy hitter guest judges. We have Michael Mina, multiple Beard Award winner, 30 restaurants worldwide, and a Michelin star. And then Claire Reichenbach is the CEO of the James Beard Foundation, which, as we all know, there's a James Beard appearance as part of the prize package. So that is somebody you definitely want to impress on Restaurant Wars. So a lot of big name, heavy hitter judges here. So let's talk about the names of the teams. So the team of Jonathan, Brandon, and now Seeger and Oscar was Tierra Reina. I can't roll my R's like Oscar can. It was beautiful. I can't do it. Tierra Reina and team two with Sherry, Anthony, Lawrence, and Duyen was Carolina Queen. So for Tierra Reina, Seeger was the executive chef. Oscar was the front of the house. For Carolina Queen, Anthony was the executive chef, and he had immunity, and Duyen was front of the house. And Duyen really wanted that front of house role, and I thought she did really, really well. Like she was made for that. Both Oscar too, though. Both of them were really made for front of house. I thought it was really smart to give Anthony the EC role
Mhm.
because Restaurant Wars historically either the EC or the front of the house are they're the leaders on that team, and they're usually the ones that fall on the sword. What do we think of Seeger being the EC, of Oscar being front of house? Was it the right choices, do you think, for those roles on both teams?
Yes. As we saw, I think Anthony, that's just a smart play, being like, I've got immunity, like I've got everything to gain if my team wins and nothing to lose personally if we go down. That wasn't his mindset of going down, but he went into it being like, I'm good. Like I'm here to try to play the game. As we see, like he's methodical in his decision making skills to play the game of Top Chef long term, and that was smart. Duyen, we saw what's our Chef Dwayne. Chef Dwayne came
Yeah,
out. You know,
yeah, her
ready to
alternate personality.
yeah, bro. When she transforms characters, bro, it's like a switch, bro. I love it. I'm here for it. So Chef Dwayne came out, and then Duyen ended up being the one who we saw leading the GM, the softer role, and did a great job. Honestly, like was greeting guests at the door, had a welcome drink right out the bat, like was doing the little things, the soft touches that I think make hospitality great. Whereas we saw Oscar was, big personality in the room, cracking jokes at the table. Like they were both unapologetically themselves in their roles, and it worked for both of them. And we saw Seeger. I was like, oh, it's ballsy, bro. You got eliminated, and you're already throwing yourself like back into like the person who notoriously gets eliminated. I was like, bro, Seeger, you got some gall on you, man. Whatever you're just cooking up behind cameras, bro, like you got some gall behind you, bro. So I think one of the twins potentially could have stepped up and been like, hey, like, Seeger, it's cool. Like one of them should have taken it, or they should have leaned into their strengths a little bit more. We saw the twins, one of them has a very good pastry background. Like, let's see that. This is the time to shine at Restaurant Wars. And like, you got to finish the meal super strong. We've seen in previous Last Chance Kitchens, teams like, kind of miss out the gate and then really pick it up at the back end or vice versa. And I think that's where their skill set right now, right here, one should have been the easy, one should have been the lead with Seeger in the kitchen, because I think that their dynamic would have been better. Seeger stepped up with the pork, had a lot of experience doing it, but fell a little bit short. So it's like, why potentially put yourself back into that if Restaurant Wars notoriously has that chance for somebody to slip up and fail big.
Yeah. I was surprised that Seeger took on the role of EC2, just
Hmm.
because coming off, and I don't know, he wasn't cooking for the time he was off camera.
Hmm.
Clearly, there was some ring rust, so to speak, with his offerings for Restaurant Wars. But I was really surprised that he took it on. I'm trying to think back watching it. I don't know if it was so much that he took it, more so than it was kind of like, you're going to be the EC, like it was kind of thrust on him.
Hey, do you want to do it?
Yeah, like you were just gone. It's like if you're gone again, then we didn't lose anything. We didn't lose anything, right? So I don't know.
That's messed up.
But Duyen, I thought Duyen was a highlight. She was sassy tonight. She was sassy on that episode. She was like 3 steps up in a Z formation and was doing all that. That was really funny. But her personality really shone through, and I thought she was great. So let's talk about the concepts because I think with Restaurant Wars, if you don't have a clear concept at the very beginning in the planning stages, then everything just falls apart. If you don't have that through line um, going through the concept of the restaurant, then you have no North Star, you have no compass of where to go. And I think to me, I thought Carolina Queen had the more focused through line with being elevated Carolina comfort food. Because Sherry said, "Oh, let's do global," and she got shut down because that was too vague. And I kind of felt bad for Sherry in this episode. A lot of her ideas were getting shut down tonight, and she's like, "Oh, okay, well, nobody's gonna listen to me." But a good idea, the best idea wins. That's kind of how it works.
It
And
should.
I thought Tierra Reina's was a good one too, kind of Latin with the Carolina flair a little bit. But I just thought Carolina Queens was much more focused, much more laser focused on what they wanted to do, and their food showed that throughout. So, with Restaurant Wars, how important is concept? How important is having that North Star to guide you when you only have 36 hours to get this restaurant built?
If you're paying attention, the judges have been grooming you for this moment. Stick to the challenge. So like execute the challenge. And now this is the hardest challenge you've done because one, it's high stakes. There's no immunity. It's a small team, but you've got to cook for a lot of people. There's guest judges that are involved that are heavy hitters. It's all the pressure that is all these buildups of quick fires into elimination challenges of different magnitudes in a very pivotal moment because now we're in the back end of the season. Now everything counts. Like last season, when my season was present, we saw the rules change. After Restaurant Wars, your quick fire now counts towards your immunity. The pressure is really heavy from this moment on, and I think that when you pick your concept, like everything's got to be very strategic and methodical. I think both teams did a really good job of initial. Let's do an ode to Charlotte. Let's go Latin because I think that was smart because it showed a little bit more of a gamble with the cuisine that they wanted to go for. It showed let's get out of our comfort zone. It's easy to do comfort food. It's easy to do Carolina food. Like all the chefs can execute that. But Oscar being like, if we do Latin flair with a southern twist, we have more options versus just doing the Carolinas or just doing southern food. And I think they're right. Kristen specifically said about one of the dishes. It was safe. It wasn't creative. It wasn't something that we had seen before. And it was cooked nicely, but there was nothing to it. I think Tierra Reina was the opposite of that. They went for the flair. It's just, I don't think that they cohesively came together as a unit to be like, more salt, more acid, more heat here. Like, let's elevate these dishes. I feel like everybody's just in the weeds in that 36-hour window. And it's really hard to like fully execute a perfect restaurant in 36 hours, as we know, but like that's the challenge. So let's see how close you get to that. And we saw who won. It was a clear defining who made the least amount of mistakes or whose mistakes were the least overshadowed by the other teams, and that's a decision to be made.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at judges table, talking about,
Mm-hmm.
Oscar had that really good barbacoa dish that outshone everybody's dish, all 8 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw that it was not enough to lift Tierra Reina over Carolina Queen. Carolina Queen was much more consistent, and not a single dish isn't going to outshine the consistency of an entire team. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to judges table. One thing I do want to highlight, though, is the inclusion of cheer wine. I
Mm-hmm.
lived in Johnson City, Tennessee, which is about 45 minutes from Asheville. So Cheerwine, if you haven't had it before and you were wondering what it was watching the show, it's a cherry flavored regional soda. It's huge in the Carolinas, huge in Northeast Tennessee. I like it. I've moved from Tennessee since then. I live in Florida now. Can't find it anywhere. But it's a really delicious soda, and I thought it was really
Amazon.
smart of Carolina Queen to include it and really pay that homage to the Carolinas. Now, Tierra Reina could have done that too, but didn't. So when we're watching them prep and cook, they're like, "Hey, can we borrow a can? Can we borrow some cheer wine?" There was some hesitation, But then they said, yeah, you can have one can. And I know we're in the touchy feely era of Top Chef. Everybody helps everybody, and I love that. This would not have been one of those things for me. I would have said, no, we have to use all of them for our dishes. I'm sorry. Like, you had that same chance to go get Cheerwine, to pay that homage to the Carolinas, and you chose not to. So for me, uh, I thought I would not have shared. What about you? Would you have shared your Cheerwine with the team that didn't have it?
Depends on who's asking me.
Oh, okay.
If it's somebody who's like I vibe with, I respect you, you respect me, you respect the dynamic. One can, we've got our mise en place. We bought 2 packs, sure. If it's a tumultuous situation, I've been like, look, bro, you had your chance to buy it. We're good. It just depends on the moment. I think there's a little bit of fun and banter in like the Top Chef where like, Tom, for example, on the previous episode was like, hey, you're gonna have to do a secret buy. And they're like, let's have fun with this and let's dog the other team. Let's put all these crazy ingredients on there. We had that moment in our season 2 where we were like, oh, let's play nice. Let's play nice. And then we saw what they were up to and we're like, I see what they're up to. Let's not play nice. It's a decision. Like it's either like gonna hurt you to play nice, or it could backfire. It's do you need all the share one can? The fact that he was like, I just need one can was, I think, the saving grace to him, because they were like, if he'd have been like, yo, let me get a 6 pack, I'd have been like, absolutely not, bro. Like, what are we talking about? I also think using share one was a great touch for Queen Charlotte, because also like my first experience having it was, are you familiar with the Cookout, that little chain that's in the Carolinas? It's like a fast food concept. So that was my learning. That was my learning experience about what share wine is. And then I have a couple of friends from Carolinas. My older brother went to North Carolina A&T. So like just going there and visiting my friends and family there, I learned what it was. It's awesome. I love it. If you love soda, it's like one of the cooler sodas out there. But I don't. It depends. I think in the heat of the moment, if we would have needed all of those cans, I don't know. But depending on who it is, like I think Brandon and Jonathan, they keep good energy. They're liked amongst the entire dynamic of the chefs there. So I think that's where Anthony was just like, just take one, bro. Like it's cool, whatever. Because there was a bit of hesitation. So I don't know.
I know. At the end of the day, it's a competition, and I don't know. I would have been like, "Nah, dude, you're gonna have to make Cheerwine from scratch and figure it out." But that's just a cutthroat in me sometimes. But good on them for being good sports about it. And at the end, it didn't really make a difference anyway, so it all worked out. uh, so
He
we
needed
talked.
2 cans.
Yeah. Should have used 2 cans. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how Top Chef forces you to be a well-rounded chef, right? So that came to a head in this one in terms of the prep work. So Jonathan, in his confession, was like, "Man, I got people for that. I haven't had to do prep work in years." And that came back to bite him in the competition. There's 5 minutes left, and there's like a 22-quart bin full of unprocessed vegetables, and that Brandon has to pick up the slack on. So again, it's that basic fundamental knowledge, and this had ramifications at the end of the episode during judges table. So when you kind of saw that happening with 5 minutes left, like how pissed would you have been if that were like on the line at a restaurant and your prep cook hadn't cleared the veg yet, and with 5 minutes left for doors open?
Luckily, in a restaurant, there's always somebody you can be like, hey, you right here, right now, I need you. And they're like, yeah, chef. And it's like, yo, go process this in the back. And then you're like scolding your line cook, why are you not ready for service? You know what I mean? So there's like there's a push pull about like how to handle that in an actual restaurant. The problem is the chefs are the line cooks and the prep cooks in these situations. There's nobody to save you but the person next to you. And he's lucky his brother was on his team. He's super lucky. I think had Jonathan been on the other team or vice versa, if Brandon was on the other team, that wouldn't have been picked up. They'd be like, bro, you're tanking our service, bro. Like somebody else would have been like, bro, you gotta eat this, bro. But like his brother was like this is not the time to joke around, bro. Like, let's go, let's get it done. Tell me what you need, communicate. And I feel like those little cascading moments like stack up quick in these type of situations in Top Chef, bro. Like they're heavy moments. You don't have a lot of time, and that clock is ticking, and it is so real. Like I watched it when I went to LCK. I literally was like, somebody's speeding up the clock here. I'm gonna watch it. And I literally stared at that clock and was like, nobody's speeding up the clock. That clock is calibrated to the T. So that's where I think like, how did you get so behind and not say anything till there was like under 15 minutes? That's where I'm at, like what else were we doing? Why was there not a delegation of tasks? Like Seeger's EC, he should have been more on the me some plus of the team. Brandon should have been the pastry chef. Like you should have done yours. And we heard it at the judge table. He's the line cook. He should have taken 2 dishes. Why is Seeger taking 2 dishes as the EC? He's got to coordinate the flow. It's like when you're an AM sous chef in a restaurant, you're literally like, all right, I'm going to get the ball rolling for everybody. I'm going to divvy out your projects, and then I'm going to help you guys. That's how it's supposed to work. That wasn't the case. Their dynamic was super off. And it's crazy that Oscar had the best dish and he's in the front house. He at some point in time has to be like, I'm hard stopping what I'm doing. My dishes are done, but he had to jump back there and bail him out and be like, no, this isn't right. This is how we're doing it. And that dish won out and then got in the front of house and also had a successful service. Like their dynamic was just not there.
Yeah, I think that was just lack of organization, obviously, on their and not realizing kind of what that EC role meant, right? They're all executive chefs, but for whatever reason, when you're in restaurant wars, it's you go into this brain fog of, okay, I know what an EC chef does in my restaurant. How can I replicate that here in an abbreviated fashion and be the captain of this ship? And it just didn't play out, unfortunately, and it came back to bite him because like you said, Seeger made 2 dishes and Brandon only did 1. Like he should have been.
Seeger's dishes were underwhelming. They were just kind of like right here. They're in the middle, so it's like 100%.
Yep, that's right. So let's talk about the to-go wrinkle. So different in this restaurant wars versus previous, there was a to-go option now. So they had to deal with a ringing phone. And they made 2 different choices of where to put the phone. You don't think about it, you're like, oh, it's just a phone call. The Carolina Queen put it in the front. I think that was right. Yeah. Carolina Queen put it in the front at the host stand where it traditionally would be. And Tierra Reina had it in the back in the expo station, which I think made a lot of difference because when you're back there in the kitchen, you're moving. You're ignoring a phone ringing because you're in the back of the house. You don't deal with the phone, so you're not paying attention to that. I thought that was a huge gaffe on that part. That should have been up at the host station, just like Carolina Queen, where it traditionally should be, and the host is answering, taking the ticket like a server, and then run it back to the kitchen just like everybody else. So, what did you think of them putting the phone in the back versus the front?
Anthony bit off a little bit more he could chew in that moment. It distracted him. There was moments where, like, we saw Sherry being like, phones ringing, phones ringing, phones ringing. Like in kitchens, like if you're a timer, that like if you set like a personal timer for like something in the oven, and it's just going off, going off, going off. Somebody's gonna be like, timer, timer, timer. It gets very annoying when you're like in the weeds and you're trying to process things and like somebody's timer's going off and like, is there mise en place burning? That affects all of us now. So like Anthony not doing like just delegate to the host stand. You had service, your whole gang of service crew. I'd have been like, you're the TGP, you're the to-go person, and you're gonna do this job. You're gonna write the chits down and you're gonna bring them to the kitchen. You're gonna approach the past chef, may I call, I have to go ticket. You're gonna present that to me. I'm gonna order fire that to the team, and then you're gonna stand here, and when it's ready, you're gonna come back and you're gonna bag this to go order up. You're gonna staple the bag with the ticket on it. You're gonna take that out and you're gonna give it to the guests who when they get to the host stand, hey, I made it to go order for this person. Boom, boom. That's the system. Let's stick there. I think this was a really good addition to Restaurant Wars. Let's add another layer on to what a restaurant already does. Let's add to-go food because in the Carolinas, to-go food does well. People are going to get barbecue, taking it in a plastic bag, and they're going on their day, or to sit down and eating outside. So let's give them both. You know what I mean? I thought that was a good mashup, and like, I don't think Anthony thought enough of it. And in that, it's like you have to be the EC and do this and lead the charge and make it successfully. And he didn't have a successful service. We've seen Anthony like have some highs, and we've seen him like kind of shake a little bit. And I think his dish kind of wasn't great. I don't think he was fully able to delegate all of his brain power to his dish because in previous challenges, when he does, he wins. Anthony can cook. We saw that. Anthony's good. He's doing well. But now that his energy is taken in so many different ways, we saw the energy not go into his dish, and it was a weird dish. I thought there was cheese in it. It was burnates, and they were a little bit confused as to why it's pulling and this rice and the combination of flavors. All these things matter. So like, why put the phone into your to-go station? You know what I mean? Those things actually matter in service.
Yeah, like he had to stop and take an order. like a server.
Yeah.
And you knew that had to throw him off. So you got to know what the next evolution of this particular wrinkle is going to be for next season, right? You know, it's going to be DoorDash and Uber Eats sponsoring restaurant wars, and you're going to have drivers coming up and going, you know, going like this, shoving the phone in their face, shoving the phone in the face. So I mean, you know, Bravo, if you're listening, there's a brand partnership opportunity right there. DoorDash, Uber Eats, sponsoring restaurant wars.
Next year when you do the podcast, you just can't complain about the Uber Eats ads, bro. You got to lean into it. Uber Eats, presented by 2% cash back. You just got to lean into it, bro.
Well, you know, it's different if it's my idea. If it's my idea, I'm good with it. Oh, geez. But somebody's going to hear that, and somebody's going to get it to Bravo, and they're going to be like, "Why didn't we think
Uber
of that?"
Eats, they should 100% get in on this. Like Top Chef it's a global brand, bro. Get in on this. Get your share. Get your ads up. Like for sure, they should do it. That would be a cool concept. Or they should do a quick fire challenge. They should get in on this in some way, shape, or form. Like why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not? But yeah, so those little wrinkles, the lack of urgency on the mise en place there until the end, the to go, all that had Tierra Reina in the weeds, like so far in the weeds, like when they did an overhead shot of their restaurant, no one had food on the tables and the turn was coming. The second group of seating. And so I can't even imagine what the wait time was. Like they obviously for editing, you don't really get to see that, but compared to Carolina Queen, whose longest wait time that they showed was like 15 minutes, which is pretty normal for a restaurant. I can't even imagine. Like you saw it, you're a chef, right? So if you saw that happening, like how long would that wait have been at the front when nobody in the dining room has food in the first go?
The hardest part is being on the expo station. When you're on the pass and you're expediting tickets and you're watching your team like lag, and you're just like the anxiety is building, their anxiety. They're looking at you like I'm behind. You're looking at them like you need to go, and there's a divide. You have a table in front of you. You can't just like cook with them unless you design it that way. They could have put that expo on the inside, and Seeger could have been back there garnishing dishes. Like, hey, if you're gonna pass, I'm gonna garnish. You keep moving. Just put the ceviche on. I'll put the Florida Cell or the little seasoning on top and the plantain chip, and we go. They could have restructured it. These things matter, like, but these are things that like you stress test when you're opening a concept and being like that works or that doesn't work. We're not gonna do that. We need more space. This system broke. Let's 2.0 it. They don't have that. So in that, Seeger's just looking at them going down. And what was the wait time? 40 minutes for them?
For the judges? Yeah, it was 40 minutes from sitting down to getting their first course. That's nuts.
Yeah, and then it flowed from there. But once again, is this because they didn't have their mise en place in order? Is it because the twins were going in, bickering with each other about not being ready for service? Is this what that was about? What happened? There was something that caused a 40-minute delay where the judges came in. Luckily, Oscar greeted them, touched the table multiple times, was doing the things the GM should do. As we've seen in previous seasons, like a GM just kind of laid back and not leaning into it. And, the judges are like, they haven't touched our table yet. They're not greeting guests. Like, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Oscar did the GM role. He still continued to touch tables and be present, which I think alleviated that kind of lag time. And then once they got food, it flowed. It did flow at some point. The bubble burst and water went downhill again.
Yeah, they got the log jam, cleared out, and then it went through.
Yeah.
But it was scary there for a minute because there was no food. And then the 7:30 seating was coming through, or whatever the second seating was. But speaking of that prep time between Brandon and Jonathan, I can't remember. I think it was Brandon that said it, that elicited a lot of visceral responses from Sherry and from Jonathan. It said, we can prep during service too. And he was joking. I didn't get the joke until afterwards. And they're like, yeah, I'd send that person home if they said something like that. As a chef watching this, did that kind of make you laugh? And you're kind of like, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. And then once again, like the editing is hilarious. They take these moments where somebody says something and they're like, we're going to wait till that's you. And then they're going to use that clip. And then like, now it's you. Eat it. You were joking about it. Now it's your reality. Eat it. It's hilarious, bro. It's so funny. I love seeing it happen on Top Chef because I've also had it happen to me on Top Chef. Like, I love brunch. Go down on brunch. You know what I mean? They use that clip. Like that's how it plays out on Top Chef. And but that's like a part of the community. It's hilarious. It's just funny because that was his reality. He literally had to like struggle through prep during service, and he felt it. He felt it 100%.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. So let's talk about dinner service. So each team had to come up with 3 courses, 2 dishes each. So for a total of 6 dishes that everybody had to cook. So let's talk about Carolina Queen first. So their first
Mm.
course consisted of a she crab cake with a she crab bisque made by Sherry, and a cheese puff with country ham, Comté, and sauce Mornay from Duyen. Um, Overall, it was a good start. Judges like both of these. I personally would have loved that she crab cake. I love she crab soup. I love she crab bisque. It's so delicious and it tastes like the ocean, and I love it. And I love crab cake, so that probably would have been my to go appetizer.
Mhm.
But I thought it was a really great start for them. They both had really good first course dishes. The judges didn't really have a whole lot of negative things to say about that first course. And how important is that first course in Restaurant Wars? Do you think to um, step off with your best foot?
You have to. It's especially when you wait 40 minutes for food. Like you gotta like punch the guests or the judges in their face with great flavors, or your food's just gonna fall flat. So I think that was a good approach. I also thought they were gonna allude to the fact that her gougères were not good. Tom was walking through the kitchen. She had piped out she trays of gougères at this point, and Tom's like, "Did you test one?" And she's just like, "Tom, not the time for this shit. Like, don't hit me with your bullshit where you're just trying to walk through and critique. Like, no, not today." And she went on her confessional and said it, but her gougères came out good, which is great. She clearly probably was paying attention to her emulsification when she was making her pashu. So shout out to her. Like she executed, and I also think Sherry, even though she didn't get the lead role that she wanted in terms of like having people adapt her ideas, she also owned her role really bad, like really well. She was holding her teammates accountable. She was present. She was being a good teammate. She was a line cook, so she like executed because they won. Like her dishes were like so like. I think she's like kind of also an unsung hero of her team that kind of just moved. It's like somebody's got to be the guy. Like somebody's got to be at the bottom of shit hill with that fucking shovel. Boom, boom. And I think that was her. And she kind of like took an unsung role. Like nobody wants to be the line cook. Everybody wants to be like, I'm stepping up. I'm the EC. I'm the GM. But she low key played her role perfectly and like stayed to the dynamic of the team.
Yeah, and luckily for Carolina Queen, they didn't have to wait the 40 minutes. Their service was smooth, and I thought it was
Mhm.
really good. But yeah, I thought it was funny. I forgot about that with Tom coming into the kitchen saying, "Did you test one?" And she's like, "Damn it, Tom!"
Mhm.
Because she realized she didn't, and she's like questioning everything in her life at that point. So I thought that was pretty
Mhm.
funny, and it did come out really well. So that's good. The second course. So for second course, we had red rice with smoked oysters, pickled okra, crab roe, and béarnaise made by Anthony, and crispy pork belly with collard greens, fried scallion, cornbread, and pickles from Lawrence. So the pork dish is what the judges were saying didn't really push any boundaries. It was a safe dish. It was fine, but it didn't really push any boundaries there. Anthony's had that weird pull, and somebody thought, "Is this mozzarella cheese?" No, it's the slime from the okra that was causing that pull, and probably the very reason why Tom does not like okra, because that is bad. Like I love fried okra, but when it gets stringy and slimy like that, I'm not. It's like eating snot. I'm not a fan of that particular type of okra. Um, and the judges had trouble with Lawrence's pork too. It was hard to chew. They couldn't cut it with the knife and had to end up picking it up and eating it. And Kristen called the dish boring, which is something you never want to hear. And the rice was mushy. So that's Anthony's unfortunate, not his best cook. Maybe being distracted by the phone ringing and having to answer it and take orders caused that to happen. Who knows? But not a strong second course for Carolina Queen here.
Yeah, they struggled, and it's two of the guys that are have been up. Two people that we've seen have like some moments, but nothing crazy. And we saw Lawrence critiquing some dish, like maybe I should have sliced the pork. I saw them kind of struggling with eating it. It's like these things matter, man. Those little degree of separations. Let's say the other team doesn't have 40 minutes on judges table. Do they not win? Because you had two dishes back to back that were also men. Like both teams, I think had two dishes that were kind of like on the rocks, but theirs was also on the verge of not being great. And so I think overall, like these teams they did decent for Restaurant Wars, but like we saw the pressure. You know what I mean? I think it's definitely better to be the first team to go out potentially, but maybe not if Tiarena went first with Brennan not having mise en place ready. they would bomb the judges table, or they would have just said, "Hey, let's just put out the first eight take like eight plates to them, and then we'll get to the diners around them. At least the judges had our best experience the first 8 dishes." Um, they also made some mistakes with their to-go food too. Like there's just a lot of little things in those mid courses where we saw are just like tripping up. Like, and I just think the middle of service for both teams, Lawrence and Anthony, Seeger and Brandon, they didn't execute at the highest level that they should have during restaurant wars, and it showed on camera. Man, there was a lot of critiques happening where I thought, man, who's getting sent home here? I'm like, if this team loses, is it Lawrence? I was like, this is gonna suck if it's Lawrence, because Lawrence has been up, man. Like I think that's he's making a clear case for wanting to get into the finale. I think there's 4 to 5 people right now that are like, I'm cementing myself right here, right now. And if he would have got knocked out, that would have been a major energy swing for it. If it had been Anthony, if he didn't have immunity, that would have been a major swing of energy for the entire season. So, like, I was at one point kind of nervous for them. I didn't think they were going to win it out until we saw the mistakes on the second service with Tierra Reina. At that point, I was like, okay, like maybe the first team's good. I don't know, man. It's a close ball game here. So, like, let's see what the judges say at table.
Yeah, so unfortunately, not a strong outing for two chefs that have won a pretty good amount of challenges up till this point.
Mhm.
And that also did have me worried. I'm like, this could lose them the competition tonight. But Tierra Reina did have those mistakes. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about their service. So third course. So the dessert course, Sherry made a PB&J panna cotta. So it was a peanut panna cotta, compressed fruit, oat crumble, and cheerwine gel. And Lawrence did a pecan baklava with bourbon maple syrup and sweet potato creme anglaise. The PB&J was a big hit, which
Mhm.
to me sounded great. I would have
Mhm.
dove right into that one. I love panna cotta. And I have a peanut butter and jelly one with cheerwine gel. Sounds delicious. And I do love baklava too. So I do like the southern take on the baklava with the pecans and the sweet potato. Judge thought overall the dinner went well. I think the dessert might have saved them. I think what saved Carolina Queen the most was a combination of the first and third courses and Duyen service, and, and how
Mhm.
smooth it ran versus the other
100%.
teams. So, what did we think of the third course? I think the PB and J was the standout dessert over the pecan baklava. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, 100%. Tom had a lot of critiques for the baklava. He's like, there wasn't enough sweet potato in it. It needed another component. It was composed. It was 3 really executed well ingredients that hit the plate, but it needed something to like. This is what we talked about in previous episodes. If you're going to do pastries, you've got to be able to cohesively bring that pastry together as a savory chef. And if not, it's going to get critiqued. And this, I think, was case in point in that. Versus the panna cotta that Duyen did, one, it's what we've been talking about. It's what I said day one. The people that go far in this competition are going to stick to this season. They're going to cook Southern food with a twist and execute. And boiled peanuts, share wine, dessert. 1, 2, 3. Southern homage into a dessert in a Southern concept in Restaurant Wars. It just worked. It sounded great. It wasn't literally just peanut butter and jelly. It was this is the time to go. And other challenges we've seen, like people go too far. The barbecue challenge, we're going too far. This is the time to do something creative and do it, because in restaurants, that's what people want. They want the creative things that they haven't seen, or your dish is going to get critiqued. And Kristen's not going to hold back. Kristen's going to say this dish kind of felt flat. It was a little boring. Tom's going to pick it apart. Gail's going to be like, it didn't really do it for me. You know what I mean? They're not going to hold back. And so this is the time, I think, that pocket to where you go. And I think Dorian she woke up on the right side of the bed. Her energy was high. Dwayne came out when it needed to come out. She put Dwayne away when Dwayne needed to go away. And she just, I think, was the reason why. I think the ladies, shout out to the ladies of this episode. The 2 ladies that are still in it, I think, carried their team. Sherry really took on the line cooking role. Duyen showed up at the GM. The ladies did it. The guys struggled. The guys struggled all across the board in every aspect today. So shout out to the ladies running the restaurant. We need more ladies running restaurants anyways. Like, shout out to the ladies who are doing it well, because they, like, case in point, when they're doing it well and they're on, this is what happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, both of them, Sherry and Duyen, really did a great job on Restaurant Wars. One
Mhm.
thing too about Caroline Queen that I think Tierra Reina didn't do that well is they accounted for the to-go orders. So when they were talking about their menu, Lawrence brought it up and said, we need to have dishes that travel well, essentially.
Yeah.
And the first course of Tierra Reina perfectly encapsulated that they didn't think about this. So the first course for Tierra Reina, they did a Carolina Ruby potato tostada with crema and salsa negro from Seeger, and a
Mhm.
snapper aguachile with a plantain chip for Jonathan. The judges liked Seeger's dish. Kristen didn't like the presentation of it, and they thought the aguachile was nice. And one thing I thought was interesting with the to-go orders, because the judges can't judge the to-go orders, they were depending on those diners filming it themselves on their cell phones, to talk about those dishes and judge those dishes and taking that into an account. The to-go order for the aguachile, the plantain chip got soggy, and the container itself was not a good container for something that is, soupy essentially. There's a lot of
Mhm.
liquid, and it splashed around. And one of the diners said it actually spilled. So that was Tierra Reina not thinking about, okay, what food will travel well in a to go container as well as good in dine in presentations. I think not thinking about that was another downfall, because that's one other critique that came into play that didn't come into play for Carolina Queen. So first course thoughts, maybe the thinking of the to go. What were you thinking there? What were some thoughts that came to mind?
Yeah, I think they approached to go food well, and with Queen Charlotte, there's a reason why you design certain things to go. You need boxes that fit it. Like, you're not gonna go trying to stuff a half chicken, for example, into a small to go box. Like, it's just, why? What are we doing? Like, we either need to go boxes or don't put the half chicken on it, because one, it's a hot seller in the dining room, and we need that. It takes a long time to brine and butcher and prep. I'm just using this as an example, but you need to be methodical about that. Obviously, putting a chip on an agua chile, throwing it in a to-go box. How long is it going to sit in there? Does it fall into the liquid immediately, which we saw? And the guy was kind of like, he picked it up and it was all flabby. These things matter, man. It's tough, man. Like, restaurant wars, doing restaurant wars, and I didn't even get there, but I know what it takes to do this. It's tough to like design these restaurants for 48, 36, 24 hours that we've seen in multiple seasons, and there's always something that goes wrong. That's by design. It's like, are these chefs able to address and check all the boxes in these challenges to do enough to win? And if not, like, this was a degree of separation in this episode, because whereas Queen Charlotte, I think, executed their dishes that go in to go better. They missed dishes. They forgot a couple and then had to backtrack and refire and then put it back. And Tom was privy to that. Tom was like, you guys were messing up. I was talking to the guests, like, you guys missed a couple of orders. Whereas Tia Arena didn't miss any orders, but their to-go food didn't travel as well. So it's like it's a double-edged sword. Both teams are making little mistakes on both sides of the ball here, and we're seeing the ramifications from that, because you know I was watching the Top Chef judges. They had a podcast as well where they talked about how long judges table lasts. They're talking sometimes for hours, because it comes down to that many details. They're not just like, yes, 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 this person's going home. It's never that easy. They're like, all right, let's put it out on the table. Let's see what really happened. Let's see what was fair, what was not fair. Is this person justified? X, Y, Z. Let's lay all the details on the table. You know what I mean? That happened to me in my brunch episode. Like, there was a reason why I went down and brunch. That was not my fault. 100%. Would I have showed another person grace? I would have, probably, because I had it happen to me and it saved my butt. I would have not have been able to get a single dish out had it been for Vinny being like, I'll swap ovens with you, man. Like, we have chemistry. We go back to New York City, bro. He was my sous chef. Like, we were teammates. Like, we're guys. We've shared many drinks at bars late nights in New York City. So like, we have a rapport there, which is why I said what I said. But in that, had there not been, if all the variables would have been set for me to walk in and I executed my dish, this is the dish I'm doing, and I was ready to go, I would have been able to step in and do that without any flaw. The judges would have just been critiquing my dish as a proper dish versus me being like, I put up some bullshit and I had a service because I dealt with some bullshit. That wasn't my fault. And could I have pivoted? I tried my best to. I was also in a team challenge and I was also helping my teammates. And I think that in those moments, if you're not able to address everything that's going on in your episode, man, it's tough. It's time moves quick, and next thing you know, you're at the judge's table and your name's getting called, and you're like, I'm packing my bags today. And that's the reality of Top Chef, man. It sucks. It's hard. It's fucking hard. And I don't think people realize how hard it is. Like, you're watching it on TV, but those guys are like on camera, sweating, stressing, little details. Timers are going off. Production team is packing up stuff. Like, it's so many things to like worry about, and we're seeing the ramifications of like We didn't even address that. We didn't address the to-go food, the plant chip. We didn't address that. We didn't address how it was going to travel. Whereas the other team did, but then messed up order. So like it's a lot to like put into one 36-hour cook. It's a
Yep.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second course was a cod pescado alla veracruzana with stewed tomatoes, Castelvetrano olives, and capers from Jonathan.
Mm.
And Oscar did the tongue-in-cheek barbacoa with duo of salsas. I thought Oscar's dish showed a lot of his personality because as he was prepping, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to do a tongue-in-cheek barbacoa. Get it? Get it?" And like nobody's laughing. He's like, "Man, tough crowd." But I thought it was funny. Showed his personality, and it was the star dish of the night on both
Mm.
teams. And Michael Mina really enjoyed it, which is
Mm.
a good stamp of approval there. And clearly the second course for this group was better than the second course of Carolina Queen. So
Mm.
again, when we're talking about judges table, and we'll get to that here at the end, but should his one dish over carry the weight of everything else? Like there, I think that was a little bit of a discussion. There was his dish enough to lift the tide of Tierra Reina, and unfortunately it was not. And the winning team has to have the winning chef, but for me, I probably would have broken rank here and say, yeah, I know Tierra Reina's uh team lost, but clearly Oscar was the winner tonight. He had the best dish of the night on both teams. So let's talk about that second course and in comparison to the other teams, and why wasn't it enough to garner Tierra Reina the win?
Wait time. That 40-minute wait time that I think the judges table had to wait. Had they not waited 40 minutes, there was something we did in my season. We said when you're going to judges table, if it's a large format where you're cooking for other people plus judges, set aside your mise en place for the judges. Set it aside so that when they get to your table, boom, right there. They're not waiting. Things aren't going in a fryer. There's no lag times. It's like, all right, we're ready. Let's do our checks and balances. And if we need to refire something, we have more mise en place. But I think that lag time that they sat at the table for 40 minutes is what ultimately was the kicker. Oscar's dish being a no notes dish, like great. That's not enough. He did his job. The rest of his team struggled. Duyen did her job. Her team had some wins in between there. Sherry did very well. The desserts were awesome. I think there was more shine. Their to-go food was better. There was enough things, check boxes getting checked. It's like we keep going back to Queen Charlotte being like, all right, yeah, they messed up here, but the other team also messed up there. So what's the degree of separation? And then as they keep going down the checklist, just one team just did better. And I think the judges made the right decision, 100%. Even though I think Oscar, him winning, like you said, guess what? You're just not going home. But also Duyan, there's no immunity. So like, yeah, you won, you were the star, but you both aren't going home. You guys are going to get past restaurant wars, and you guys are going to live to cook another day.
Yeah, and I think another reason why Tierra Reina did not win, other than the service issues, was dessert. Both desserts did not
Mm-hmm.
land. So
Mm-hmm.
Seeger did something called a cremujo with a crema catalina and a bene cracker, and Brandon did basically a rice pudding with cheerwine cherry jelly. Both were underwhelming. The rice pudding had chunks of undercooked rice, which is not pleasant in a rice pudding. And they thought Seeger's dessert was grainy, and it was too savory to be a dessert. One of the to-go diners actually said it was more savory than sweet. Um, so dessert is the last impression that you make, whereas the appetizer is first impression. So you always want to have dessert be well done. So obviously it wasn't, and I think that cost him the win there. But Seeger in general, I thought coming back in from being eliminated and being inserted into Restaurant Wars, he seemed to cook very indifferently tonight. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but he seemed to not be in it. Like he didn't seem to be. I don't know if it was because he was out of it for maybe a week or so and having to jump right back into the stress Restaurant Wars, but he seemed to cook with indifference, kind of just like I don't care to be here. I don't know. Did you pick up on that, or maybe was that just me reading into it?
No, I just think that their team was just a little bit overwhelmed. Desserts fell super flat. Like it was just a bowl of rice, undercooked rice pudding with some jellies on it. Like clearly the focus was on the jellies and that one can of jelly and the rice pudding. And Seeger's dish, I think, had the components to be great. It had a crunchy component, it had a soft component, and it had a really savory or something that was supposed to bring it together, the cremo. But they weren't working together. Their team wasn't clicking. Like that was just apparent. Their team wasn't clicking. The twins were bickering at each other. I kind of left Oscar on an island. Oscar's like, no, this isn't how we're not plating it. I got to go GM. I had to bounce back. He's like, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to put on a suit. I'm going to look good. I'm going to have fun while I'm doing it. I think he's the one having fun. That's where, like, man, this is the unsung rule of Top Chef, man. Like, we've seen it so many times on this season, and it was the opposite mindset of what I took. You got to, like, have some kind of fun here. Like, this is a once in a chance lifetime. I was having fun. Even when I was down, I was like, bro, I'm having a blast. Like, Last Chance Kitchen, I was like, I'm out. I'm still gonna make the best of it. And I like got to cook with Caesar, and I was like, all right, cool. This is me leaving Top Chef Kitchen. It's like cooking with Caesar, like as his suit. Like I had fun the whole time. The trivia challenge was one of the funnest days I've had as an adult in my entire life. I felt like a kid again. We crushed it. So you got to find those pockets to where you're smiling, because that love translates into your food. And like Caesar, or as we're seeing, Caesar was having fun. That's the difference maker. Duyen is like, Queen's coming out. I'm ready to crush it. She's cracking jokes. Everybody else kind of wasn't. Everybody else was kind of like, so letting the moment stress them out. And that's where I think when you pour that love into the food, man, when you pour it in, we're watching Seeger kind of like, if you're noticing his energy's down or he's feeling a little damper, like, is he pouring love into his food, man? Like, nah. Like the judges notice that, bro. When you're up and you're having fun and you're smiling and you're just in a groove, like that translates into goodness that comes around you. It should win out. It should beat out all the negativity around you.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about having fun. You're in a once in a lifetime opportunity with being on Top Chef. Have fun with it, and clearly Oscar was having fun. He was having fun at the tables. He was having fun cooking his food, and it did show. And he had best dish of the night, and he had really good service. So talking about judges table, so clearly, as we're talking about it, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it yet, Carolina Queen won, and they actually got a prize with that. All four of the team plus one gets to go to Universal Studios in Orlando. And the overall winner was Du Yen. It's her first elimination challenge win, but no immunity. There's no more immunity after this. So gets the win, but no immunity. And then Tierra Reina, their team is up for elimination. And unfortunately, Brandon goes home for his bad dessert, and only having cooked one dish for being a line cook, only was responsible for one dish. And the one dish was bad. So yeah, I think obviously it was the right choice. I think Carolina Queen had some hiccups, but their hiccups weren't nearly as bad as Tierra Reina. And it showed the disconnection in the kitchen for Tierra Reina. I think cooking with, I don't know, with indifference or just being down about it, came through, and some small choices just added up to a loss for them. But let's get right into LCK. This LCK was really interesting. One, it was the season finale of LCK. So the winner of this one moves back into the competition, and we're on the back half of the season after this. So it's Rhoda versus Brandon. Rhoda's been on a tear ever since she came in, really filling that underdog role of coming back into Top Chef through Last Chance Kitchen, like Bailey, doing the same thing, discovering who she is as a chef. So the challenge is Restaurant Wars LCK edition. So they had to serve a 3-course menu, but it had to be a single bite in each course, which is very interesting. Having to cook like a lot of food and then putting it all on one single bite and trying to get your concept to come through in that one single bite is a huge challenge. Only 45 minutes. So the dishes, Rhoda's concept was a California Mediterranean concept. Her first course was a roasted carrot salad with goat cheese and pistachio alade. Second course was a seared scallop with grilled leeks and romesco. And the third course was a roasted duck breast with a grilled radicchio and grape jus. Brandon's concept was seafood, nice and broad. First course for him was a scallop crudo taco with apple, fennel, and yuzu. His second course was a hush puppy with trout roe and andouille sausage aioli. And his third course was a quail egg raviolo with ricotta, country ham, and caviar. So before we talk about the dishes, Brandon looked like a crazy person cooking. I don't know what happened, how quick Restaurant Wars came between him being eliminated and him going to LCK. But he was just a Tasmanian devil. He was not focused. He was like this whirling dervish in the kitchen, and they perfectly contrasted that against Rhoda, who was calm, confident, moving with a purpose in the kitchen. She wasn't running anywhere. There was no, her hair wasn't on fire. Brandon's hair was on fire for not having hair. It was ablaze. He was looking like Ghost Rider in the kitchen. And it came through in the food. His concept was seafood with no seafood. It was crazy to think about. He was hoping that the caviars and the roe and all that would carry the quote unquote seafood, but there was no fish in it at all. And Rhoda was the clear winner. I think she's just moving with purpose. She was cooking with that goal in mind. I feel like Rhoda was cooking to win. Brandon was cooking not to lose. And I think you see the difference there. So watching this LCK, what was going through your mind as you were seeing these vast, it was like a tale of two chefs with just vast different approaches to coming into this challenge.
This goes back to something you said earlier. How much time was in between that? Was he delirious? Did he drink too much share wine? Like he was on 1,000. I was like, bro, he's sweating. He's like cracking jokes. The jokes he was making were funny. He was like, "This ain't no patty cake," and then he cuts to Justin being like, "Oh, look, patty cake's not a bad song, man." Like, yeah, there were some moments of like really funny moments in there because he was just like, I'm like, "What's on with this guy?" He was like in the ocean swimming, but didn't see the shore. I'm gonna get back. Doesn't see the shore, and he used all of his energy. And like you said, it was not laser focused, bro. He took some chances. I think he made some really good dishes. And had he actually cooked, like, what if his pasta was stuffed with some type of seafood? What if he would have cooked that perfectly? Would that? I think he might have been able to win back in. This is the difference of like a degree of separation. Nothing's getting past time in LCK. I learned it firsthand. I didn't open a can that I wasn't even gonna use. I had a can of tomato paste. There was a couple other cans. I just threw a bunch of stuff in, didn't use them. And then when I wanted to use them, I was like, well, can't open any of the cans. And I still made a successful dish that looked great. And I got eliminated because I didn't open a can. That's the difference maker of Last Chance Kitchen versus being in the main competition. Tom's like, you make any mistake, you're gone. He didn't stick to his concept. How are you going to say seafood and then like you go trout roe and caviar back to back? That's not encompassing of a 3-course tasting menu, even though it was just like one bite canapes. So Rhoda, but it was also making Rhoda nervous. She was just like, this guy's making pasta. Like, oh shit, like, am I gonna lose? I'm like, he was like, his energy was so crazy. Everybody in the room felt it. Like, you should have saw Nana's face. Nana was sitting there like looking at him like, what is this guy on? You know what I mean? And so I think in terms of like their dishes, they both cooked really well. I think they both presented really. He made pasta in like 13 minutes and then did it, and it was good enough to like Tom's Italian. He's Italian American. Last name is Colicchio. He's not gonna not let you make Italian food, a thing that he loves, and resonates with as a chef, and put up some BS. And I was like, oh, this is going bad. I was like, when I saw him trying to stuff a raviolo, I was like, oh boy, I've seen this before, and it's not gonna go well. And he pulled it off, and I was like, okay, bravo. But then didn't stick to his theme. And Rhoda was calm, quote, collected, started her duck breast first, rendered it. Tom literally sliced into it. Duck was cooked perfectly. And I think that that's what won her out. She gave enough flavor and enough differentiation across her concept in this Last Chance Kitchen cook. And shout out to the ladies, man. I think the moral of the story is the ladies won episode 8. The ladies, the last 3, the last of the Mohicans, they won episode 8 big. They all showed up. They stayed laser focused. I'm eager to see if this is one of those Top Chef finales where it's 2 ladies and a guy in the finale. Because if these girls keep cooking, if they can consistently bring the passion, Sherry's really stepped up. We're seeing Du Yin step to Wayne, leaning into herself now. She's feeling confident. And we've got Rhoda coming back. Rhoda was the first time, first 2 back-to-back elimination winner in Top Chef history in 23 seasons. The first person to ever go 2 for 2 out the gate. So the ladies are up. Bravo to y'all.
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. I love that Rhoda's back in, so she wins LCK, and she's gonna be back in the game starting. I thought they were gonna end it on a cliffhanger. I was totally expecting that, but they announced that Rhoda's back in, so she's gonna be coming back on a high of going through LCK, and as we've seen in previous seasons, going through that gauntlet. If the earlier you're in LCK and can win out, the better you become later on in the competition, I think. So it'll be really interesting to see how she adapts back into the main competition. But this is the last we're going to see of Brandon and Nana and Brittany and Justin. I'm sure we're going to see them towards the end when we get to the finale, and they need the sous chefs. So they'll be back sooner rather than later. But yeah, so I thought overall LCK was really good. It was just really interesting to see these two difference in cooking there. So let's talk about the draft point updates. So for the episode, you, after all the scores get tallied up, you win the episode 9-1 for episode 8, and you have been on a tear on this second part of the first half of the season. Overall score, I have 43 points and you have 84. So you are well ahead, but still a lot of game to play, a lot of season left to go. To figure out this winner. I am in no way out of this yet, so we got a long way to go. Long way to go.
She's the fat lady, as they say, is starting to hum, as they say.
Right.
She hasn't sung yet, but she's la 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 la.
That's right. Tell her to get ready in the green room. So that's right. That's right. So just give you the last few minutes. Where can people find you on socials to keep up with what's going on and what's happening at the restaurant these next week or two?
Follow me at Chef Corwin Hemming on Instagram. Things at the restaurant. Spring menu is launching. Mother's Day is coming up. We got a lot of exciting things. Book your reservations. Get in. Good Love Cocktail Lounge is doing amazing. We are booked and busy on a consistent basis. So a lot of new changes coming. A lot of new flavors coming to the spring, early summer menu. I got a question for you. What are we doing for the Top Chef finale? Are you gonna come to Isla? Are we gonna do a party? What are we doing? It's on a Monday, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to, but no.
Are you flying to DC? Can we get you up for the night? Like, can we drive you up? Like, what do we got to do to make this Top Chef finale this season? Like last year, I went to Elmina with Chef Eric Ajapong, and him and Tom Hasbro, pronouncing his last name wrong. They had a Top Chef finale in Elmina, and it was a dope party. There was drinks, there was cocktails, full crowd. Tristan's little brother was there. Like it was just a good time. It was the perfect people, the right room. There was a microphone. We were giving out speeches. It was just a dope night. It was cool. So we gotta figure out something, man. We gotta do it big this year.
Oh yeah, man. We'll talk offline.
Let's talk offline. Let's figure something out.
We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out. But yeah, so follow Chef Corwin on Instagram at Chef Corwin Hemming. Follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content, and make sure to like and subscribe on your podcast player of choice or on YouTube. So you know when new episodes drop, hit that bell icon so you know when things are happening. And if you like what we're doing, leave a review. I would love that. And share it with your friends and family. Tell them you're having a good time listening to our Top Chef recaps. Chef Corwin, until next week, thank you so much.
Rich, always good, brother.
Thanks for listening to Eat Your Content. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting the podcast through my merch store on TeePublic. Get great quality items like t-shirts, hats, mugs, and more, all sporting the vibrant Eat Your Content logo. Go to teepublic.com/user/eatyourcontent for more great items, and thanks for your support.